Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, Executive Editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with Peepo. Now, some of you may not realize that Peepo is a Norwegian forest cat, or at least she kind of looks like one. We're not exactly sure, but she did live out in the woods behind our house for a few years before she popped in and decided to settle, and a perfect pretext to talk about a marvelous Norwegian composer. She wouldn't have wanted to miss this, would you, honey? Actually, she probably couldn't care less and wants to go get a snack, but I think I'll put her down and let her go do her thing so that we can talk. Go ahead, sweetie. Thank you. So that we can talk about Eivind Groven. Yes, that household word among Norwegian composers, Eivind Groven. Groven was the Norwegian Vaughan Williams. At least that's how I describe him. It's the best way to do it, I think. He lived from 1901 to 1977. And he was a Vaughan Williams-y composer in the sense that he evolved a style which was based entirely on the modalities of Norwegian folk music. He didn't always quote folk tunes. He didn't need to quote folk tunes. He just wrote that way, just as Vaughan Williams did, adopting modal harmony and the syntax of English folk music. Otherwise, the two don't have much in common. I mean, they don't sound like each other at all. Groven sounds Norwegian, Vaughan Williams sounds English. And it's actually very interesting to compare the two, to hear how a similar approach to composition results in two very, very different styles. What's interesting about Groven's work is how he adopts traditional forms, in which to express his musical thoughts, symphonies, concertos. And he's actually been fairly well represented. Well, I mean, 3 or 4 CDs, 5 CDs worth of stuff, but well represented in terms of his major pieces. Primary among them are the 2 symphonies, which you can get here on this extremely convenient and very well played Naxos disc that's just come out, featuring the Kristiansand Symphony Orchestra under Peter Szilvay. And it's really very, very, very well done. These are lovely works, very, very beautiful works. And, as with Vaughan Williams, Groven's approach to form and to writing was his own. It was rather special. His use of the orchestra is quite special. He does not adopt any traditional symphonic structure. He rather takes little motives, sort of folk motives, and spins them out. And they are constantly evolving and fluent variations on these basic themes or motives. And it's very clear, it's very easy to follow. He very seldom uses the entire orchestra at once. Rather, he uses small groups of instruments to color the themes as they sort of reappear and return in this sort of kaleidoscopic, constant interchanging metamorphosis of ideas. The result is unconventional, and a little because of the lack of tonal tension, you don't feel much direction. That makes the movements sound a little bit longer than they actually are, but not in a bad sense, because the music's extremely beautiful. It falls very gratefully on the ear. And so these are works that are well worth knowing, quite original in their way. Groven was very highly respected in Norway, both as an ethnomusicologist and as a composer. And as I said, these 2 symphonies are somewhat represented. The first symphony was recorded on Bis, where it's coupled with some of his Norwegian dance-type tone poem things. And the second symphony is available on C-Max, where it's coupled with his piano concerto. So there's some nice works out there. And if you're going to start collecting Groven, you wind up duplicating things, probably, very simply because there's just a limited amount of stuff. And these are the major works. But it's extremely convenient to be able to get the first 2 symphonies, or the 2 symphonies, pardon me, because there are only 2 of them, in one convenient package. And this is the convenient package. But let me play you a sample instead of talking. And the proof is in the hearing, as they say. The first symphony has 4 movements and is unconventionally structured. Let me tell you what they are. There's an andante quasi cantabile. It's very cantabile, actually. An allegro, a largo, and an allegro monotropo. And I'm going to play you a little bit of the first movement. It's really lovely, just the way it opens. You'll hear it's quiet originality, I think you would call it. The opening is a trumpet theme, and then the motives just begin doing their thing. Both symphonies have subtitles. The first is Towards the Mountains, whatever that means, and the second is The Midnight Hour, whatever that means, and I don't particularly care. So anyway, here is the opening of the first symphony. Very lovely. And you'd think that because it's so diatonic and pleasant, that it would be facile, but it isn't. There's no music that sounds quite like this. And as you listen and as you hear these motives evolve and recur, you begin to sort of just get captured by the ongoing musical argument. It's really marvelous music, splendid music. The second symphony has three movements. It's basically fast, slow, fast, and I'm going to play you just the opening of the finale, the first couple of minutes, so you get a sense of it. This is one of his more rhythmically perky dance type pieces. Here's the opening of the finale of the second symphony. Lovely, lovely music. Absolutely worth your time, well worth getting to know. It withstands repetition extremely well. I mean, I've known these pieces now for a little while because I reviewed the first symphony when it first came out on BIS, and I have the CMAX recording of the second. And these are worthy works. and certainly deserving of your attention and time. And this, as I said, is Naxos with the Kristiansand Symphony Orchestra, conducted by Peter Szilvay. Definitely something that you will enjoy discovering. Eivind Groven, Symphonies 1 and 2 on Naxos. Keep on listening, folks. Thanks for joining me. Take care.